G'day YouTubers, and thank you for tuning into today's very meteorological type video on YouTube. Yes, did you hear the term meteorological? Because at the moment we are now experiencing what I presume is an October heat wave. And you remember that video that I did with Storm Magnus, and I know I've got my haircut there still. It's kind of interesting. I did Storm Magnus a couple of weeks ago, which was an extra tropical cyclone that I decided to film with because, you know, I'm just testing and experimenting with a few meteorological techniques that I'm doing at the moment. Of course, it's alongside with thunderstorms and stuff. I don't know. So what I will do is I'm going to go ahead and look at BBC weather. And yes, we've just come out of a very hot September, which I'll dub it as Sweat-tember. And I'm making this video relatively early. Strangely enough, because, you know, well, as funny as it sounds, yeah, I'm going to get vaccinated. I think it's a little COVID vaccination, but I can't tell you where I'm actually going to get vaccinated because it's secret squirrel. You know, I don't want you guys just to hear a peep from me because, you know, if I did hollow out the place of where I was going to get vaccinated, well, you guys are starting to freak me out. But anyways, let me just go ahead and flip the computer around and we'll take a look at what we're going to be having at the moment. So yes, it's going to be a very real taste of summer. That's what I've got. Not just my t-shirt, but also it's in reverse. Just got my shorts on. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at what's on the computer. Somewhere. Okay, let's take a look at what's going to be happening throughout today and also throughout these 3 to 4 days. Now, interestingly enough, we're now seeing spells of warm to either, let's say, hot or warm, spells of sunshine, and in the sunshine, despite how low and medium the ultraviolet index, the UV index is, because we're going into winter, guess what? The temperatures are actually lifting. They're getting up to 23, 22, 22 and 22 again and again and again and again. It's very interesting to know that, hey, that's what's going to be there via the outlook of what's going to be happening today. And of course, yes, what's going on here is, so as obvious as it sounds, this is a very common feature amongst British heat waves. I know Scotland are now getting big deluges of heavy rain, so that's why the jet stream is moving further northwards, so it's going to cause some very big deluges of flooding in Scotland. Mind you, look how low the temperatures are there in Iceland and Norway and Russia. That's actually very low. And look at the temperatures of what's happening in southern Europe. We've actually had temperatures down south in Spain, France and Italy, these Mediterranean countries, up to like 30 degrees Celsius. And what's going to bring in, look at how this jet stream has moved very much northwards. And what we're getting, if I click on the full screen, here we go. I know you sun seekers are going to love it so much, so do I, because I'm a tropical guy, even though I'm technically born via here. So what we're getting, if I go ahead and take a look at the pressure chart, I don't know, we'll see how the pressure system, so there's no pressure system but over here. Maybe if I take a look at the pressure itself, okay, I'm sort of thinking that's not here on this map. Let's try pressure. So what we're having here is high pressure that has actually allowed to creep on northwards into the UK, and what we're getting is some very warm air dragged all the way from Africa, northern Africa obviously. Sorry, my mouth has gone a little bit, how do you say it, deteriorated and a bit flopped up. Nearly swore here because I don't know what to speak. I just said the word so many attempts and then I just nearly thought I'm gonna lose it. But anyways, look how this hot air or warm air is actually migrating to. So yes, the low pressure is now moving up to Scotland. That's why it's very wet up here. Been lots of torrential rain and very wet weather up north. And possibly a whole bunch of flooding. Sorry, I didn't show you Iceland properly. That was very stupid of me just to not actually show it right in front of camera. And yeah, so we've got some very unusually warm temperatures in this time of the year. In fact, this weather phenomenon that we're getting here at this time of the year, in fact, we just had a September, and now we're getting a HOT-TOBER, has really made the dream so well valid. And came true, of course. And as funny as it sounds, yes, as you can definitely tell, all of that warm air is migrating from North Africa up to the Mediterranean and all the way to the UK. But I don't think we're going to get such extreme heat for this time of the year. Unlike what we had so far, I think we had it back in, was it October of 2011? You know, we actually had a September heat wave, a very late September heat wave 12 years ago, before I made videos on YouTube. It was around September 2011 to October of the same year, and it broke the record for the hottest October for this year. In fact, it was 2011 that topped up 29 degrees Celsius. That almost was like 30 degrees in October. I think it was in St. James Park in London, wasn't it? But hey, locality and meteorology does seem to surprise me. So yes, that really is something. Okay, so the jet stream has moved and nudged all the way northwards, and we're actually dragging in some warm air from the south and the southwest, or possibly from the southeast. I think it's more of a southerly direction, because unfortunately at the moment, the warm air that we will be getting will only be happening for around 96 hours, which will be very sad to know, because by Wednesday, guess what? We've got some very unsettled weather conditions. So please make the most of this amazingly warm weather event in October. It's basically a sequel to the hot September that we had. We had a very unusual heat wave in September, and boy, I was almost sick. I just threw up right outside on the roof because it was just, too further away to get downstairs and stuff to bath all of my comestibles downwards to the toilet, to all of my food from dinner, I guess. But hey, you know what, that's something. I do get really sick in summer just as much as winter, hey? But yeah, so what we're having, okay, so as I'm scrolling down here, you can see that the high pressure is still in charge, but then on Wednesday, notice how this low pressure system is starting to take over western parts and northern parts of the UK. Look how it's actually, I'll show it to you again. So I need to go a little bit slower here. Maybe the pressure chart that I'm handling isn't really that great. High pressure is still settling in, but look at the low pressure coming all the way from the north, coming all the way from Iceland, the northwest. Look at that. It's a northwesterly wind, and it's bringing in rain, but also it's bringing in much fairly cooler temperatures, which unfortunately is a very huge sign of the shape of things to come, because as we're moving in towards winter, that is the sign that our year is completely and utterly done. Here comes this band of rain. It's actually moving in. Some of these could be potentially heavy and thundery. And that's it. The temperatures have sadly been reduced to that. That's basically almost 9 to 10 degrees the difference of the average, the normal average temperature that we get for October. But nevertheless, I'm so glad that this is something. So I've just made a meteorological video for the sake of my new enthusiasm here. I was going to probably think that this high pressure was going to come from the Azores, because, the Azores high. Where is the Azores? If I type in where the Azores is, and I know it's a very unusual location, I think it's located not that far away from, is it Spain and Portugal? I'm pretty sure it is. The Azores high, it's from Portugal, but if I type in the Azores, which is an island, an autonomous region of Portugal, and not Spain, I was thinking of that, because I think that's where this high pressure is also coming from, the Azores high. That's actually interesting. So I'd probably say in between low pressure and high pressure. Maybe I might be totally wrong, but high pressure is actually very dominant here. We've got low pressure here. If I look at the long range forecast, I can't zoom in or anything, but let me just see where these islands are. I'm quite curious about the Azores because, you know, here they are, that's the Azores, and for some reason it actually has got into a barrage of rain, so that means low pressure has actually been in charge of the Azores High, of the Azores Archipelago. That's what I'm thinking of. But nevertheless, we are getting warmer air, as you can definitely tell. Look at the wind direction, it's coming from a southwesterly direction, and you can definitely tell, actually look at the wind, it's very much concentrated via the south. Look how directly southwards this wind is. See that? It's coming from a southerly and southwesterly direction. I'll show it to you again. Look where it's coming from the south. And you can see how that wind is making its way. Look how south this is. It's coming from the south and it's emigrating towards here in the UK, and you can just see how much warm air we're actually accumulating in this country before the barrage of rain marauders the UK and then unfortunately dissipates all that warm air. Hopefully this will be a very great revelation of what's to come and the shape of things to come throughout this time of the year. So anyways, I think that's about it in this meteorological video on YouTube, talking about why we're going to get warm air in October. That means it's HOT-TOBER, isn't it? Sorry for the pun, but hey, that really is what it is. So, yep, that's a bit of an insight to the warm air. And I think it's coming from a southwesterly and a southerly direction. I don't think southeasterly. If you want to have much more drier conditions, hotter and drier conditions, it will have to be on the southeasterly direction, which would move northwestwards from like North Africa, and also to parts of like Greece and Turkey and Italy. I think that's where it comes from. And then you also need to combine, well, there are several methods to get a southeasterly wind. You can get like hot air from North Africa, but you can also get like dry warm air from like Scandinavia and also Eastern Europe. So that's where you can get, which is a bit confusing, but hey, I think that's how it goes. So I think that's probably about it in this meteorological video. As always, thank you so much for watching in this heatwave outlook for October of 2023. And that's probably about it. And bye for now.